All right, welcome back to the arena. And joining us now is a top lawmaker on Capitol Hill, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. She sits on both the House Judiciary and Oversight Committees and will be questioning the FBI Director, Kash Patel, at a hearing tomorrow. Congresswoman, I'm very grateful to have you on the show here today. And I want to start by just asking you to respond to the conversation we've been having here on this set. It's the conversation the country has been having. You heard what the Attorney General said earlier today about potentially using the Department of Justice to try and go after certain groups. Do you think that the way that she is approaching this hate speech is appropriate?
No, absolutely not. I don't think that that's any surprise of anyone that I would disagree with this current Attorney General. You know, it is sad that it seems like there are people on the right specifically that are using Mr. Kirk's tragic death to go ahead and move forward with their tragic agenda. If you believe that you swore an oath to the Constitution, then maybe you should read it. Maybe you should start reading some case law. Maybe you should understand that the First Amendment is not about speech that you like. It is about protecting speech. And to be clear, we do have laws that are on the books because not every single thing that you say is necessarily protected. In most states, they have terroristic threat laws that are on the books because you can't just go out there and threaten somebody or do things that seemingly look like threats, and you have the ability to carry them out and you can be prosecuted. If there's anything that this DOJ and this FBI director need to be doing, they need to be surveilling online to figure out who the potential real threats are. As we know, this young man who is alleged to have shot Mr. Kirk, he was a gamer. He was doing a lot online. In fact, he confessed online, and the FBI who was looking for him still couldn't find him. That tells you how adequate they are at their jobs right now. And I don't put this on the men and women that are currently serving. I put this at the leadership that has decided to divert at least 20% of the FBI resources to just pet projects of this president. In addition to that, we know that the shooter that was in Colorado, where children were shot on the same day as Mr. Kirk, yet no one wants to talk about it, was also posting some very concerning things online to the extent that the FBI had been alarmed about his activity, and ultimately he carried it out. The Minnesota shooter was posting online for 30 days, and people saw what he was doing, and then he did it. Maybe we should focus on policing the speech that is more than just speech, but it is leading to actual deaths instead of just looking at what hurts the feelings of conservatives.
So I'd like to ask you to respond to critics who have pointed the finger at Democrats who have used phrases like fascist or Hitler, made comparisons to those things over time. Do you think that that's contributed to this, or are those critics wrong?
They're absolutely wrong. Here's the reality. They don't want American people to know any forms of history. We know that there was news out today about the president going after yet more historical information. The reality is that when we look at what is taking place, when you look at an authoritarian, and what they do is they try to basically say, you have to do whatever the government says, even if that means that your personal freedoms are going to be subjected to whatever we say, whether it's right or wrong. Right now, our personal freedoms are constantly under attack. Your first question was specifically about our First Amendment rights. Right now, it is about doing whatever the man who currently occupies the White House wants done. There should not be anyone that faces consequences because they actually know history, and they are trying to prevent even more disaster and harm from coming to the American people. What crosses the line is when you say things, especially on air, like, yes, euthanize homeless people. That is a problem. Or when you're having a rally and you start talking about beating up people and causing physical harm. Or when you joke about what happened to Mr. Pelosi when he was attacked. Or when you decide that there are over 1,500 people that were charged and convicted, whether it was in a trial or they signed plea agreements after beating law enforcement and tearing apart our Capitol, and you decide to let them go free. It seems like violence is okay if it is only because the man that is currently serving in the White House asked for it, even when we look at ICE officers and what they are doing to those that are accused of violating our law. That is what they think violence is okay for. But then when it ends up happening and it comes back on the other side, they claim that it's because of the Democrats and them using words like fascist.
Congresswoman, we've heard the president say that he basically thinks that the political violence problem on the left is worse than the political violence problem on the right. Do you think the political violence problem on the right is worse than what it is on the left?
I think it's a false comparison in the first place. And I think we should have a leader that is responsible enough to denounce political violence, period. It's not about where it comes from. It's about the fact that it is happening. It is never okay. It is never okay if it happens on the left. It is never okay if it happens on the right. And if we had someone that knew how to be an adult in the room, he would say that. But when we look at it, please tell me who is fostering this gun culture, right? I mean, the reality is that the average person on the left probably couldn't make a shot from 200 yards because they haven't been playing with assault rifles since they were a little kid. Like, that is just the reality of how people on the left typically work. And if we believe that political violence is a problem in this country, if we believe that our children on campuses, just because they want to go out and have a day of free speech on campus, may be subjected to this kind of violence, then maybe we need to start talking about legislation that will keep these types of weapons out of certain people's hands. Now, whether or not this gentleman would have qualified under any type of laws that many of the Democrats have proposed, I don't know. But the reality is that they typically want to say it's somebody with a mental health problem. Well, maybe red flag laws would be helpful in those circumstances. The reality is that we are elected